what is the deal with Chabad Farbrengens? Now, before we go on, I just want to say Farbrengen is a Yiddish word, which we'll get into in the episode, and Chabad is one of the biggest Hasidic groups out there, Lubavitcher Hasidim. And if you've ever met a Chabad rabbi or been to a Chabad house, you may have stumbled upon a Farbrengen at some point. And we're going to get into that in this episode. For this 46th episode of the JewishDrinking.com show, I invited Rabbi Eli Simpson, local Maggid Shir at the Cincinnati Boys Masifta, to talk about this. Now, before we go on, I just have to point out, I was very excited when we filmed this back, that's right, I don't know if you can remember such a time, before COVID hit Ohio and, of course, the rest of the United States. So we actually filmed this together. That's right, we were less than 6 feet apart with no masks on, drinking vodka together. So you will see us, but don't think this happened this summer or this fall. This actually happened way back when, in the before times. That's right, before the COVID outbreak hit Ohio. So you will see us, or if you're listening, you will hear us drinking together in the same room within 6 feet of each other without masks on. This is all pre-COVID-19 hitting Ohio. So you'll get to see, this is our third episode you will have seen Rabbi Simpson on. It seems like it's going to be a while before I have another guest on live in the same room. But in the meantime, I hope you enjoy this episode, and l'chaim.
This is a really exciting experience that I don't have to deal with the internet, Skype, whatever software and potential glitches, that I can actually be in the same room, drinking the same drink with Rabbi Simpson here. So I'm super duper stoked. If you didn't catch that episode, you can still on the internet. I haven't taken it down. I'm drinking Hasidic thought, drinking Hasidus. And today we're actually discussing Farbrengens. And some of you may have heard of them, some of you may not have, and that's why it's a really great opportunity to learn about them. So, Rabbi Simpson, Farbrengen is a Yiddish term, right? Mm-hmm. Is that distinctly a Chabad? Is that a Lubavitch practice exclusively, or do other groups practice that?
So, I don't know how many groups currently practice it, but it certainly goes back to the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement. Mm-hmm. So it's not exclusive to Chabad. I believe there are some other Hasidic groups who do it from time to time, maybe in a different format, not necessarily for the length or the same
content,
or
Do they still would they still call it Farbrengen? Or
maybe could be. Yeah. I think just for some reason, like, it sticks in my mind. There are some groups who.
But it's definitely a Lubavitcher.
For sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And what does it translate to?
Farbrengen actually means spending time together.
Oh, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, like let's Farbrengen. Let's, in Yiddish the expression Farbrengen die Zeit, which means just spend the time together.
Oh.
So that's really what it is. It's a meeting of minds. It's a meeting of hearts. It's a meeting of souls. It's basically the idea that we can get a lot more accomplished sitting together than we could each on our own. There's a famous.
It's developing synergy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Very good. There's a famous saying from the Mittler Rebbe. That's the son of the Baal Tanya, the second Chabad Rebbe, who said that when two Jews meet, it's two godly souls against one animal soul. In Hasidic thought, every Jew has a godly soul and an animal soul. So when two Jews meet, now you have two godly souls against one animal soul. Now you might be thinking, well, you have two godly souls against two animal souls, right?
Yeah.
But it's not that way, because every godly soul is interested in the same thing, and that's fulfilling what Hashem wants. Every animal soul is interested in their own thing. Every person's Yetzer Hara, that's interchangeable for the animal soul, wants their own thing. I want my thing, you want your thing, and they're not teaming up together. They're not getting together, but our godly souls are getting together because they both want the same thing.
Okay.
So it's two godly souls against one animal soul. And when you have many people together at a Farbrengen, then you have, multiply that against a single animal soul.
Huge odds. It's really great odds.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes.
I do want to talk about what happens at a Farbrengen, but I'm just going to cut to the chase. The alcohol, the drinking. What role does the drinking play? Is it like just like at any other social gathering, it acts as a social lubricant. It makes it easier for people to talk. Kind of like the Gemara where it says so that once people start drinking, secrets come out. It's easier for people to share.
Right, there's actually another Gemara which says that sitting together, eating and drinking together, and in this case drinking together, brings people closer. So yeah, that's definitely a component of it.
Yeah.
If you want to know how important to a Farbrengen is the alcohol, it's like on the bottom of the list. It's like the last component of the Farbrengen is to have a little, alcohol at the Farbrengen. But that's by far
It's still there.
it's not even secondary. It's like it's the third, fourth, last thing at Farbrengen. Now without the
Could you
mashka,
Farbrengen without much?
that's a good question. You see, that's I think
It's
that's
like a
debate.
necessary. It's still a
It's
necessary.
a necessary component.
Okay.
It's a necessary component, but it's definitely not on the top. It's important.
Yeah.
It's like that little screw that if it's missing, the whole thing can come apart. But it's still only a little screw.
Okay, so the drinking, the alcoholic beverage, the mashka, is a necessary component.
Mhm.
It's just not highlight. It's not really the featured component of a Farbrengen.
Correct.
Okay.
So there are a number of reasons that are given for why we say l'chaim at a Farbrengen. Of course, the first one, which is what you mentioned, it just makes it easier for people to get together. There's another reason that's given is at a Farbrengen, what we're basically trying to do is to get inspired, and we're trying to get inspired to better ourselves, to be able to take on good resolutions, to up our game, as it were, in serving Hashem.
Mhm.
So now, each one of us, like we mentioned, contains this animal soul. There's this little troublemaker inside of us that's not very excited about Jews getting together and looking to improve
Ganging up
themselves.
on
Exactly,
right?
right? He's not very happy. So he tries to disturb the party. And what we do is we say, hey, mister, you want something here, we'll give you a little l'chaim. Here's some l'chaim for you. Take your l'chaim, go to sleep, it makes you happy, right?
Yeah.
And now we'll talk. And now now our godly souls will communicate with each other. The analogy that's given is, so you have these, there's the prince who's been sent by his father in this, faraway mission.
Mhm.
And in this faraway land, he gets caught up with all kinds of troublemakers, and he's sitting with the lowly peasants, and then he feels terrible how far he is from his father and from his royal palace, etc. And then one day he gets a letter from his father. He's excited. He's in seventh heaven. He wants to dance and sing, but he knows that if he's going to just start dancing and singing over here with all the peasants, they're looking at him like, "Hey, what happened?" So what does he do?
They have no
So he
context for
buys-
his action.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right? They don't know where this is coming from. They have no idea what is this king? What does king mean? What's a prince? They have no idea what this is all about. So he buys a bottle of vodka, right, of l'chaim, and he sits down with them. He pours this one, he pours that one. Each one of them has a little cup. They all drink. They start dancing. They're dancing because of the mashka, because of the vodka, and he's dancing because of the letter that he got from his father, the king. So that's who we are. Each one of us has this little peasant inside of us, and we give him a little mashki. He gets excited because of that, and now we can get excited over Torah, mitzvahs, serving Hashem properly. So that's one.
It takes him off the board.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. It just puts him to sleep.
Yeah. He feels satiated. Right?
Exactly. Yeah, and he gets a little happy, right? He's not in a bad place. Like we're not, he's not feeling overburdened. He's not feeling like we're just, sitting together and then hurting him, right? It's really, really squeezing him. He feels a little excited, and he lets us do what we need to do. He lets us get down to business. So,
All right. So now the content of the Farbrengen.
Mhm.
So it's been a while, but it's a mixture of singing, Torah, other things, right?
Yes.
So what all sorts of content come out of it, and what gets discussed? How does it work?
Okay, so in general, at a Hasidic Farbrengen,
Also, going to throw in type of frequency. When do they occur? When do they happen?
the more frequent the better.
Okay.
Yeah. We try to
L'chaim, right?
L'chaim, yeah. we try to make Farbrengens as often as possible. Okay. There's a pasuk that says Aseh lecha saraf v'simu Yisrael nes. That Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu when the Jews were attacked by these deadly snakes. He told Moshe Rabbeinu, Aseh lecha saraf, create a viper
or a
out
snake
out of copper, right? Moshe Rabbeinu created it out of copper, and the v'simu Yisrael nes, put it on a pole. We mentioned that that liquor is called yain saraf, right? Aseh lecha saraf, make a Farbrengen. You see myself and put it on find some excuse, find some reason why you're making the Farbrengen. You need an excuse. This happened, that happened, this day, that day. Yittes Kislev, Hey Tevis, Chabdala Tevis, Yud Shvat. These are all dates in the Chabad calendar. You'll find the reason why to say L'chaim, why to Farbrengen. So we try to make it as often as possible. The purpose of the Farbrengen is to really keep us on our game. A chassid must always walk a tightrope. Okay. Which is to say that we know that in Hasidic thought, simcha is very important. We try to avoid sadness, depression like the plague. On the other hand, it's very important that we not get satisfied with where we are, right? With our accomplishments. To always be striving higher and higher. So it's kind of like this tightrope where on the one hand is sadness, despair. On the other hand is satisfaction, patting myself on the stomach. And we can't fall into this and we can't fall into that. We have to maintain this balance where we're joyous, we're happy, we're excited, but we're not satisfied and we're still striving. And that state of perpetual balance is very difficult to maintain. So we need Farbrengens to constantly invigorate us.
To help balance.
To help balance
keep us
that.
Balanced,
On the one hand, the Farbrengen brings joy, inspiration, be excited, this is what we're doing. On the other hand, we have to strive for more, we have to, up our game, like we said.
It's really to help push you. It's to help with the momentum.
Absolutely.
And the morale.
Absolutely. And also with the with people joining together, like we mentioned in the beginning. Ahavas Yisrael is another fundamental of Chassidus, and it's very important to a true Farbrengen where everybody's sitting together and singing a niggin and saying l'chaim and really talking heart to heart with each other encourages Ahavas Yisrael. So that's another benefit of Farbrengen. Yeah. Now, Chassidim always had mashke at Farbrengen. But they did not always necessarily drink the mashke at the Farbrengen. In fact, yes. Back in Russia, not for
It was like Elijah's cup. It was like Elijah's cup. We're going to put this out there. We're not going to consume it.
Exactly. Sometimes they would even pour a cup. It would sit out. They would sit for a few hours.
Literally like Kosel,
singing Nigunim. And at the end, they would pour it back into the bottle because we need to have some mashke for the next Farbrengen.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's why I'm saying you can't have a Farbrengen without l'chaim, but l'chaim is really, really on the bottom as far as actually consuming the alcohol. It's really, really on the bottom of the list.
Wow.
Now, at one point, the Rebbe in 1963, the Rebbe was Parshas Shmini. The parsha in which it says Yayin v'Shecher al Teisht
in Vayikra.
Okay, and the Rebbe came out with what some would call a decree, which the Rebbe never did. And the Rebbe said, from now on, there is no taking more than 3 shots at a Farbrengen.
Really?
Okay. And the Rebbe was extremely emphatic about it. Very, very clear. Anybody who drinks more than 3 shots is not connected to me. We know, for example, in Chabad there's something called Tahalucha, where we go out on Yom Tov to the different shuls, to join in the dancing and to maybe say over some words of Torah. And I've said anybody who drinks more than 3 l'chaims should not take part in my Tahalucha. Should not take part in any of my programs. He said, regarding wrapping tefillin on Yidden, that I can't stop you from doing because that says in the Torah. That's not a 3. But my programs, my initiatives, if you take more than 3 shot glasses, and he was very, very clear, he said 3 small shots, okay, that together should total less than Roiv Revis. Okay? At a later point in time, the Rebbe upped it to 4. You can have 4 shots,
okay.
And in total, they should all add up to less than a Revis.
Really?
Yeah. See, this is where Chabad all of a sudden gets him on the Chazon Ish's shir. The Revis is this big, is that big? But the Rebbe was very, very emphatic, and over the years, he continued to reiterate it year after year after year about there's no drinking. And the Rebbe said, even though at some point in time it may have been necessary, says nowadays with the amount of chassidus that exists today and the amount of inspiration that there is, we don't need it. That you could accomplish the same thing with a very, very minute amount of l'chaim and a lot more chassidus. You can get the same inspiration and even more than with all the mashke of the world. And if you take more than what I told you to do, it's not going to lead to anything good.
Wow.
So
that's pretty sharp.
Oh, for sure.
Is that still followed to this day?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. It's
4 though, not 3.
4. Yeah, absolutely. Now the interesting thing is that it said that this decree is only till age 40.
Interesting.
Yes. After age 40, the Rebbe requested that people don't drink more than that, but he wasn't as emphatic about it after that point in time. But over the years, the Rebbe would send out notes. I heard that people, intimated that I changed my mind about this thing. Not true. This doesn't change. And at one point, the Rebbe said, this applies to Simchas Torah, Purim, Yudas Kislev, everything.
Not just regular for rain.
The Rebbe was emphatic against alcohol.
Yes.
Anti-alcohol. In fact, he quoted many times.
He was actually anti, not just limiting it for.
He was very much. It's very, very interesting. I'll get into that in a second.
Really.
But he said that he quoted his father-in-law, the previous Rebbe, many times, where he said that mashke is a davar mos, which means that
it's disgusting.
Alcohol is a disgusting thing.
Wow.
Yeah, and that Chassidim have to stay away from it, and don't get close to it. You need it for Farbrengen. It's a necessary, it's a necessary ingredient for a Farbrengen. But don't get excited over the alcohol. Take it with Kabbalah's oil.
It's funny because it
reminds me. You have to.
It reminds me, going back to your previous statement, of it's like a balance, a tension. On the one hand, it's there. It's part of the Farbrengen, the Hasidic tradition, but at the same time, he doesn't really care for it.
Yes,
so it's
very much so. And I'll tell you more than that. In fact, there's no one who gave out as much mashke as the Rebbe. I mean, the Rebbe at Farbrengen would give out bottles of mashke to anybody who was starting a new initiative, anybody who was going out on a shlichus or whatever. They would give out thousands and thousands of bottles of alcohol. In fact, there was one time where the Rebbe was complaining how come a certain initiative of his wasn't materializing, and someone said to the Rebbe, he said, Rebbe, so the Rebbe was saying, he says, how come when this Rebbe, wants his Chassidim to build some building, whatever, it gets done. Yeah. So he says, so the Chassid said, Rebbe, he says that Rebbe, when he wants it to get done, he gives his Chassid money, and he makes it happen. He says, you give him a bottle of mashke, and you say, good luck, go, get it done, That's the difference. But the Rebbe would give out many, many bottles of mashke.
Wow.
And at the same time,
also tempered.
Tempered,
Yeah,
right?
tempered.
There was a few times that the Rebbe removed the gezerah. A few specific times, like a Purim 1964, for example, the Rebbe removed the gezerah. And when he removed the gezerah, it was like, Sei l'chaim, and everyone was like, mitzvah ad v'layad. A few times over the years that the Rebbe removed the gezerah, but all in all, the Rebbe was extremely, extremely adamant about it.
Wow.
And he never changed his mind. There's a word that I once heard that says, going back to Noach, says Noach ish tzadik tamim haya b'dereisav, right? He was a righteous man in his times. What does it mean in his times? So Rashi gives two interpretations, right? It says yesh Rabbi Seinu darshan shvach. There are those who are of our rabbis who interpret this
In a praiseworthy
praiseworthy way, right? That if he would have been, had he been in the generation of Avram, he would have been even
greater,
more wonderful.
Yeah.
But v'yesh darshan ma'aseh l'gnai, some interpreted in a negative way that according to his generation he was great, but had he been in the generation of Avram, he would be insignificant. So, in fact, the word yesh can also be read as the word yash, right? Yash, we said, is the acronym for Yayin Saraf, which means mashke. Yesh me Rabbi Seinu, that means mashke that comes from our Rebbe's, darshan ma'aseh l'shvach. That we interpret in a praiseworthy way. In other words, when the Rebbe gives you a bottle of mashke, that's one type of mashke. It says v'yesh, the second time it says v'yesh, it doesn't say Rabbi Seinu, it just says v'yesh, that means just regular yash. Regular mashke, darshan ma'aseh l'gnai. That's interpreted in a negative way. So I guess you have to know what your alcohol, where it's coming from and what it's really meant to do.
That's really true in all manners of life. Understanding where your alcohol is coming from and what it does to you.
Absolutely. In fact, today, when we are recording this, is Yutes Tevis. Yeah. Yutes Tevis happens to be the yard site of one of the big chassidim of the Tzemach Tzedek, whose name was Reb Hendel Kugel. Hendel Kugel was an extremely deep and really like a heartfelt person. He was like he loved every single yid. In fact, they say that he passed away because he saw a yid's house that had burned down, and he took it to heart. Like it really bothered him that he became ill, and he passed away from that. Reb Hendel was a very special person. It says that when a tzaddik passes away, so he has to go through Gehenna, even if he doesn't stay in Gehenna. He's just got to walk through Gehenna. The Rebbe Rashab said about Reb Hendel only sniffed Gehenna. He never actually got into it. He's a special person. He would farbrengen a single little bottle of vodka. In the same bottle of vodka that he would pour the vodka into the cup, pour it back in the bottle. Every Pesach he would sell it to the goy. After Pesach he would buy it back. The same bottle that he farbrengen with for all his years.
Wow.
So, yeah. So again, mashke is important as part of farbrengen. It's an important component, but it's on the bottom of the list. It's that screw that if you're missing it, the whole thing is going to fall apart. It's just a little screw, and it's
a necessary component, but not the focus.
Absolutely, not the focus. It's kind of like we look down on it. We need. What can we do? You have to have. You got to say l'chaim. But definitely not the focus.
Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned earlier the point of it is both for momentum for people's actions, for Jews' actions, as well as morale to help keep them up. Content-wise, so in addition to singing, what's the content of the Farbrengen?
So farbrengen, there are really two kinds of farbrengens. There's the more formal type of farbrengen, for example, when the Rebbe would farbrengen. There was a specific format. The Rebbe would talk, and there was a song, and there was more talking, and there was another song, and people would sit, and the Rebbe would sit up at the table. That's like a more formal farbrengen. You have that also nowadays among chassidim, like for example on Yutes Kislev, when you'll have a community farbrengen, and people will sit by tables, and then there's a head table, and different people get up and they speak, and there's interspersed with song, but it's a more formal event. And then there's the more informal farbrengen, where everyone's sitting around the table, and one person says something, another person asks a question, and people discuss and converse and back and forth, and then they sing a song. One guy just starts singing in the middle, and everyone joins in. And then one guy says l'chaim, and it's a much more informal event. Those are really two different formats of farbrengen. Each one of them has their place, but I'm a fan more of the informal.
It's easier to put together, right?
But if you've ever seen a video of the Rebbe's farbrengens, they're very inspiring events.
Wow.
You see literally hundreds, sometimes thousands of people sitting and singing nigunim, and the Rebbe encouraging the nigun. Sometimes the nigun would go on for 20 minutes, even more. And in fact, there was, there were times where the Rebbe said, I was waiting for this inspiration to announce my next initiative. It's like, after singing for like a half hour, okay, you guys are ready? Here it comes, One time that the Rebbe did this, for example, was at his 70th birthday, where the Rebbe's birthday is on the 11th of Nisan, Yud Aleph Nisan. And they were singing. They were singing one particular song. There was the song. I think it was B'cha Hashem Chasisi. B'cha Hashem Chasisi. Alei v'Ishalei Elam. B'cha Hashem Chasisi. Alei v'Ishalei Elam. It's going on for a half hour, and finally they said, "Okay, guys, you ready? I want 70 new institutions over the next year. 70 new institutions should be opened in this coming year," and they were, and they were. But so that's what Farbrengen is all about. Farbrengen is about connecting. It's about getting inspired. It's about taking new resolutions. Resolving that tomorrow should be better than today. And it's really just about.
But there's also a serious Torah component also. Is there stuff about whether it's a weekly parsha, halacha? Is it more, I don't know, Hasidic thought stuff? Like, what's the content of it?
Okay, so first of all, Hasidic thought can be very, very deep Torah content. Those are not,
They're not mutually exclusive.
Right. In fact, most Rabbeim, the main focus of the Farbrengen was either Hasidic content or a Hasidic discourse. We differentiate between the two. Hasidic talk, which is kind of like more loose discussion about Hasidic matters, as opposed to a discourse, which is a very, very structured Hasidic Torah, right? Maybe based on a pasuk in the parsha, and interspersed with Kabbalah, with Gemara, with other things. That was kind of like the focus of the Farbrengen. It was very little discussion of explaining a piece of Gemara or making a siyum or things like that. Those had their place, but not at the Farbrengen.
Okay.
And in fact, the earlier Rabbeim would Farbrengen very, very infrequently, maybe 4 or 5 times a year with the Chassidim. The Chassidim among themselves would Farbrengen more often, but with the Rabbeim, it was very, very infrequent. The Rebbe completely changed the whole format of the Farbrengen. The Rebbe's Farbrengens, contained explanation of the parsha, sometimes a hadron on whichever Masechta the Rebbe was completing then. Deep discussions on Gemara, Kabbalah, Machshava, Halacha, all kinds of stuff. And the Rebbe would speak for hours. So it was both longer than the other Rebbeim. The format was much more formal also. And the content was also very, very different. And in fact, the Rebbe edited quite a few of his talks. There are 39 volumes of the Rebbe's edited talks. Okay. There's about 150 volumes of the Rebbe's unedited talks.
Wow.
And these contain all aspects of halacha, Gemara, Kabbalah, everything. So the content of these Farbrengens of the Rabbeim changed dramatically with the Rebbe. Very different than all the other Rabbeim that preceded.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then nowadays, so what do people do for Farbrengen-wise? So it's more local, and do people largely follow what the Rebbe did and sort of the structuring and content of the Farbrengen?
So usually a Farbrengen will contain, somebody will give over some idea from one of the Rebbe's talks. That will usually be like the opening of the Farbrengen.
Yeah.
We start off with that. The Rebbe would always open his talks with either some, a quote from somewhere. So we begin the Farbrengen with a quote of the Rebbe's talk on something. That's usually how every Farbrengen will open up. And then from there, it kind of follows a loose, structure. The person, whoever's leading the Farbrengen will, talk about whatever topic is important to the crowd that he's talking to, and pertinent to the time. If it's on a particular Yom Tiv, you might talk about the Hasidic significance of that Yom Tiv, you know, the deeper meaning of the Yom Tiv, etc. Yeah.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was
All right.
very enlightening.
Chaim l'chaim.
Indeed. Awesome. Well, Rabbi Simpson, this was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And, hopefully we can do this again. All right.
Yes.
Well, l'chaim, everybody.
L'chaim, l'chaim. Next time we'll say l'chaim and Farbrengen together.
There we go.